deadline is going to be February 11th. The hearing will continue then on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Okay, so we'll see what happens for Brian Walshe then. Let's talk about it. Wow, what a power panel we have this morning for this case. Let's bring them in now. I want to welcome back to the show nationally known radio host and a creator and host of the show Rhode Patrol Live, John DePetro, private investigator, former Army intelligence officer, and NYPD officer Manuel Gomez, and celebrity attorney. He does criminal defense work and civil work, attorney John Phillips. Good morning to you all. Can we start with just the story of this, please? John DePetro, can't think of a better storyteller than you. You've done this for many, many years, covered many criminal cases. You're in this area. What has this case done to the community? Would you speak to the impact of Anna Walsh's disappearance and the sentiment for justice for Anna, please?
Julie, this was just so horrifying. I was outside the house in Cohasset when they actually arrested Brian Walshe. But this was a situation, this guy, he had some charges pending against him that he had committed art fraud, that he had sold someone paintings that weren't legitimate. Anna Walshe was this enchanting, lovely young mother. She accepted and took a very high-profile real estate job in Washington, D.C., and so for a while, the arrangement was she would fly back and forth, and Cohasset is a beautiful area right on the South Shore. And then she finally came to a kind of a fork in the road, and I've spoken with some of her friends in D.C. who loved her, and she was beautiful and talented, and her plan was she was going to move her 3 young boys down with her to live in D.C. I spoke with the people that helped her decorate her townhouse and their rooms. But instead, when she mentioned that to Brian Walshe, he went off, and on New Year's night, as you've talked about, he took her life. It absolutely rocketed around the community. People were mortified. And now the goal of this guy, to be in court trying to say it had something to do with Proctor, Julie, there's no way the judge is going to allow this.
John, I think you're absolutely right. And thank you for all of that context. We see the pictures and we get just a few facts. Beautiful woman, successful in her career, a mother of 3 kids. And then when you hear just how devastating it was, it sickens you even more. And investigators knew that this guy lied. Well, Gomez, this is where I want to go to you. So even though they haven't found her, so we know Brian Walshe is kind of making this Hail Mary play with, Proctor was biased and said nasty things about Karen Reed, so, I guess I must have some difficulty. But let's talk about the other things even more difficult. John DePetro, let me go back to you, please. Some of these facts. Using his child's iPad, some of the most disgusting evidence comes from that. Would you speak to that part of the story, please?
Yeah, that's amazing, Julie. And this is one of those situations where Brian Walshe, he thought he was going to be slick, but that was the first time when you think about Google searches, and this was in the early morning hours of New Year's. They had a dinner guest who left, and then prosecutors, police believe that's when Brian Walshe committed this heinous act towards his wife. But he used his child's iPad, and as you've kind of touched on, to look at, how long before a body starts to decompose, how long before it smells, and how to get rid of something like that. He also ended up coming up with using a dumpster, and that's where, in fact, they have him riding to some of the dumpsters kind of near that area. But, Julie, I want to touch on, and this is so important with the Proctor angle, so much has been made about Trooper Michael Proctor, but in the end, and this is so important, now Josh Levy, who did the investigation into Sandra Birchmore, that's how they got the Proctor text. He's leaving office. There was never a charge brought for conspiracy. So for all of the noise about Proctor, they never found texts where he was rigging or tainting any of the evidence in the Karen Reed case. So therefore, why I say that is, I think the judge is going to reject this outright. But make no mistake about it, Julie, Brian Walshe, the police, they have a solid case, whether it's the son's iPad, whether it was his movement, whether, kind of the plan that was set in motion, what he did after that. Although they don't have the body, they seemingly have a lot more than just that.
Oh, you're exactly right. And thank you for that context, too, about Michael Proctor. And for anybody at home who may not recognize that name, Joshua Levy, who you mentioned,